Good evening. My name is Ray Dwyer, and this is Dr. Joe's Dispenza's Meditation and Book Discussion Group. Tonight, we are discussing Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, Chapter 5, Survival versus Creation. We have a special guest tonight, a guest speaker, Beatrice. How are you this evening?
Good, very excited. This is one of actually my favorite chapters. So for everybody that is new, we're looking at the book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. As he said, is chapter 5. And Ray just summarized, the first 3 chapters that we've been talking about, right? About the body, the environment, and time. And they have to do with the ego and survival, which is very important because we do need that ego to survive, right? But now here also we're talking about creation. How does it compare to survival? And we've all been in different stages of creation, when we sing, when we dance, we were painting, doing some art, right? And we realize that in those moments, kind of we lose track of who we are, right? We're in the flow. So in order for us to get into that state, we really need to break the bonds with what we call the big 3, that are the body, the environment, and time. But however, we realize that this is not easy. It's a little bit difficult. So we're going to read from page 97. What does Joe think about why it is so difficult? He says, why is it so hard to live in these creative moments? If we focus on an unwanted past or dreadful future, it means that we live mostly in stress, in survival mode. Whether we're obsessing over our health, survival of the body, paying our mortgage, the survival need for shelter, right? The environment, or not having enough time to do what we need to do to survive. Most of us are much more familiar with the addictive state of mind we'll call survival, right? Than we live in it as creators. So here he really explains, right, why it is so difficult. It's because we're constantly thinking about the past, or we're worried about the future. And what it also mentioned, and we'll go into a little bit more depth, is this is an addictive state, right? And that's why it is so difficult to break free. Then he compares, right, survival for animals and for us, for humans, right? And he gives the example of a deer that is gazing. This animal is in perfect balance, and maybe he sees a threat, right? He sees a coyote, and he's very afraid of being attacked. Maybe there's something happens. In that moment, right, the animal gets stressed, so the nervous system starts to kick in. He goes into fight and flight mode. But then after the incident happens, the animal, goes back into this state of rest. However, we know that is very difficult for us, right? We keep ruminating, and maybe we're afraid that incident is going to happen again. So he says, we humans have the same system in place, right? We activate the nervous system once we are under attack. When we perceive danger, our sympathetic nervous system is turned on. Energy is mobilized, and so on, in much the same way as a deer, right? And this was a mechanism that was very useful when we were in caves, but right now, right, it's really playing against us. So unlike animals, we have the ability to turn on the fight and flight response by thought alone, right? This is really the curse that we have. He continues and says, as far as we can tell, animals don't have the ability or disability to turn on the stress response so frequently and so easily that they can turn it off. The deer, back to happily gazing, isn't consumed with thoughts about what just happened a few minutes ago, let alone the time a coyote chased him, 2 months ago. So this is what keeps us in stress. And what happens to us is, as we think and feel, and then we feel, I think we go into this loop. And what we're doing unconsciously is really activating our genes, right, to produce mainly chemicals that are the mainly proteins, right, that can take us into disease, right? And this is a very unconscious process that we go through. Then he says, when we think about it, the real difference between animals and ourselves is that although we both experience stress, humans re-experience and pre-experience traumatic situations, right? What is so harmful about having our stress response triggered by pressure from the past, present, and future, right? So this is a domino effect that at the end of the day is going to deregulate our genes and provoke disease. The beautiful part about this is, and we're going to discuss this, is as we unconsciously are producing disease, we could consciously, right, heal. So when our stress response is triggered, we focus on three things. And this is the highest importance. The body, I must take care of the body. The environment, where we can escape, right, the threat, and time. How much time do I have to use in order to evade the threat? Any comments on this? Questions?
Yes. What was that last point you said about the body, time, and the environment? That very,
Right.
very last.
So when we feel threatened, there are three things that we make sure they're safe, right? Your body, right? When you want to make sure that your body stays safe. Your environment, right? Where can I escape, right? So you're trying to control the environment. And also time, right? How much time do I have to be safe? And we'll go into more depth about this, right? Because in order for us to go into the creative state, we need to make sure that we are not focusing on the body, the environment, and time.
Okay, thank
Go
you.
ahead, Reyes.
Yeah, hello. I just thought I'd add my 2 bits in here. When I was reading this, a point that really was important to me was a statement that you made off of page 100, middle of the page. It says, the reason is clear. The domino effect from the cascade of hormones and other chemicals we release in response to stress can dysregulate some of our genes. That is the definition of epigenetics going the wrong direction. When we put an energy in our being that directs our genes to do one thing or the other, when we get stressed out, we send an energy. I mentioned that earlier about the inner environment tells the genes to create a new. Here it says we are dysregulating genes when we stress. What's important is the same system is how we heal by changing our energy into a high frequency, gratitude, joy, love. We change the energy of the genes and we regulate them into health. It's important to understand that this is a system that's in us, one way or the other. I just wanted to point that out because you'll see this numerous times tonight's chapter, and I wanted you to see it really clear because it'll come up again. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Anybody else? Any comments?
Yeah, I was going to say
You're muted.
oh, sorry. Yeah, I was going to say some mental illnesses like PTSD and other anxiety conditions are caused by stress or stressful or traumatic situations. So then I guess maybe that situation affected our genes and triggered the illness. And then basically, what Dr. Joe here is saying is that we kind of use that same logic except with positive events, right, to repair that damage.
Most definite, yes. If we can think ourselves sick by stress, anger, fear. We can think ourselves well by happiness, joy, and gratitude. And that's not woo-woo. That is scientific fact now.
Okay, but I mean, even if the original condition was caused by, I mean, right, we think about it, but originally it was caused by external factors, right? Other people doing stuff to us.
Oh, yeah, because what are we doing? We're holding on to the energies of the event. One of the things you'll hear me say many times, the events are written in the book of life. You don't change the event. You change your relationship to the event from, oh, to go away. You release it. You get empty hands. I use the word forgiveness. I know it's my definition, but what I mean is you release the energy to the trauma, and that energy now comes back and heals the body.
Okay, thank you.
I know it's easier said than done, so don't just poo me because I said it that way, because I went through it and it took me a long time for me to quit doing this to the darkness of my past. I know it takes work, determination, and choosing moment by moment through your day. But is it worth it? Oh my God, yes. And I'm here to help you get there.
Any other
have-
comments?
I have a quick question.
Sure.
I'm just wondering how you achieved that. Is just a mindset, or there is like kind of practice to control, I mean, not releasing those chemicals? I'm not sure if the book mentioned what type of chemicals. Is like a cortisol or dopamine or whatever.
Well, there's so many chemicals involved that one place it says there's something like 1,400 chemicals released in a traumatic situation. So it's like crazy amount. So instead of putting energy or thoughts on the chemicals, when you change your thinking, you change your body chemistry. When you change your energy, your body chemistry changes and your hormones, your genetic expression changes. So it's the work that does the magic. It takes time to overcome the years and the 1,000 repetitions of rehearsing the trauma. It just does. It's a human thing. And how, back to your question, how do you do it? How I did it is doing the meditations that are mentioned in this book, and the first three blessing of the energies produced by Dr. Joe. Once again, we talked about this a moment ago. drjoe.com, drjoedispenza.com. I went to a shop and I bought Blessing of the Energy Centers 1, 2, and 3. And I bought the 2 meditations associated with this book, Body Parts and Change and Water Rising. And I did the Blessing of the Energy Centers multiple times a day and just worked hard, make it stop, choose it, choose it, choose it. And slowly but surely, I was able to let go of the pain and let go of my past. And that story gets long with all the details of what I did. It's not a simple formula, but it went back to working on my child work, as some people call it, until I was able to heal the pain of my young boy. That was one sad young boy, and that carried that sadness into my adulthood. And it's something that trauma as a child pursues you all your life until you resolve it. But it did, and and with all of that, it's all a matter of release, release, forgive, forgive, until your heart and mind is free. And I learned how to do it by doing these meditations with all the intensity and purpose I could muster. I think that answered the question.
Thank you.
we'll be talking about that in much more detail as we go through, but that is a real question that a lot of people have to deal with, and they just come at it from different porpoises. And so just stick with us, we'll work on it.
Hi, Ray, I've got a question for you.
Hello, Julie.
It's actually Diane, but let me just clear this out for a minute.
Sounds like you're talking in a tiled bathroom with the echo going on.
Hold on, let me do this. I'm on both. Now, can you hear me better?
Oh, that's better. Thank you.
Yeah, great. First of all, I want to thank you for having this platform. I truly appreciate this. I went to Joe in 2016 and I didn't want to go home because I didn't want to face reality after leaving. I went to the progressive. So, but here's the question I want to ask. I have several, but I won't ask them all right now. When you said blessing the energy, what is it? Blessing the energy centers?
Blessing of the energy centers.
Blessing of the energy centers. Yeah, I ended up getting about 4 of those tapes when I was at the progressive. But the one you're talking about, is that does it relate to what they call the Kundalini, that blessing of the energy center where you're pulling up from the perineal and all that? Is that the one I'm talking about? I'll get it right.
Yes, I don't use the Kundalini as an expression because there's other information associated with that term.
Okay.
This is more basic, more pointed. And it's more internal, it's more physical than the association with the teachings of the Kundalini, which are energy stuff. But you'll get into that as we go further. But the beginning ones is just learning how to control your awareness, to turn off your analytical mind, and to learn how to use your control of your awareness to move inside and turn off the stress.
Right.
It's really a skill that we will work on all year.
Yeah, well, I definitely need that because I don't know. I was thinking because I did it before, but I know I was doing it incorrectly, and I think I've heard there's no such thing as a bad meditation. But I felt as though I was trying too hard and trying to push it up to the head, and I got discouraged. That's one thing, but also the final question. Open focus, I guess that's what I know it to be. But when Dr. Joe speaks about space, beyond space, and that I'm struggling with that as well. So when I tell you I'm struggling with it, I am. But I'm going to get it.
I remember the first time I got that. I bought the meditation that came with this book, the Body Parts in Space, and that was actually that one and the other one that came with this book are the two I bought first.
Okay.
And so I'm listening to it, and he's talking about put your space here, and then he goes into space within the space, and I popped out of my meditation like popcorn. It's like, what in the world is he talking about?
I know.
And I tried to get into it in space, and it's just like, what? I'm telling you, I had no clue. And so I had to find something that I could practice meditation with. And that's when I found Blessing of the Energy Centers. I found them as a set, 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
And I did 1 so I could just get acclimated to it, I think is the word.
Yeah.
And that's the simplest one. Then I did a 2, then 3, and then I did 2 and 3 hundreds of times over that first year. And those 2 simple meditations was instrumental in my first big event where I ended, and I say I ended because it was so abrupt, I ended 9 years of advanced stage melanoma.
Oh my God.
I was facing my 6th deep surgery for melanoma tumors. In fact, 2 weeks later after that event, I was in the hospital getting cut, and they woke me up out of surgery and said, "Look at this." I said, "What?" It says, "Everything in this incision is dead, and your body's already absorbing the tumor tissue."
Oh my.
I didn't heal. It ended, and it ended abruptly. And then a couple months later, I went in for my full body scan like they do for skin cancer because I didn't have skin cancer. I had all of them.
My God.
Well, anyway, and they said for the first time in 10 years, that was my 10th anniversary from being diagnosed, I was completely clear of all skin cancer.
Oh my God.
So when I say it ended, and it ended doing Blessing of the Energy Centers 2 and 3 100 times, because what I learned, I didn't
Mhm.
even know what I was learning. I learned to let go of my analytical mind. And in
Okay.
that moment, I found that nobody, no place, no time. And when I
Yeah.
found it, the divine was waiting for me.
Oh my God. Beautiful. Beautiful.
I get emotional just rehearsing it. I mean, I've rehearsed it 100 times and I still, memory of it just moves me. And so you don't, do I buy the other meditations? Oh yeah, I got a library of them now.
Okay.
But the important lesson is to let go of your analytical mind. The word is surrender,
Yes.
and to receive, and that word is worthiness. Those are the two doors that were closed in my mind. You might have different doors that are closed for your mind. Those are the doors that were closed in mine. I didn't surrender. I had to redefine the term. For those who are new here, surrender to me during that time. I'm an Army veteran with military PTSD. In fact, I still get a little military disability check because of my PTSD. Now, don't tell them I'm well. So anyway, I lost my train of thought. I got funny and forgot what I was talking about.
Your
Well, anyway.
secret is safe with us.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
So what I learned, what I learned in the first two lessons is how to turn off my analytical mind and go into awareness and rest in awareness and go broad focus, you know, and I learned what space was, and I learned what it meant by space within the space, you know. For instance, once you have your sphere of awareness, and you can pull an awareness of yourself and make that a space, what's outside that space? More space. You have just heard the space within the space. You know, there's your space, and then there's the space, you know. And so, well, anyway, that's what I learned about that.
Yeah, I'll ask more about that later because I'm gonna my question would be, do you see darkness or are you I'll ask more. But one other question and I am done. Did you miss a day, Ray?
Not the first 2 years. In the
Okay.
first 2 years, I didn't miss the day doing it twice. Some
Okay.
days I did it 3 times. Oh, and as far as the darkness, I wrote a little poem that goes, I go into the darkness to find the light. Yes, you go into the darkness. There's a reason why they call it the dark night of the soul, because it takes a little bit of time in the darkness for your spiritual eyes to get adjusted to it. It's like somebody turns the lights real low. Your physical eyes take a little adjustment. You go into the darkness and your consciousness takes a little adjustment for the lights to start showing up. And they usually do.
Thank you.
Okay. Wings, you've been real patient. I see your hand.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. Trying to make it simple and sweet. First of all, I really appreciate Diane. Is that her name, Diane? I really appreciate what she said. I resonated a lot with that. The first question is, do you think it's safe to say to a person that, let's just starts doing these meditations, you know, starts doing a practice, is it complete? I mean, this is going to sound like, I hate saying being that person that says it sounds like a stupid question, but do you think that it's normal that you don't, it doesn't click right away? So not to, you know, not to give up when you're doing, like, for example, the blessing of the energy centers, we'll just use as an example. We can apply any of them to it. Let's just say someone starts doing it and they just don't get it and they feel like nothing's coming out of it. Do you feel like it's absolutely necessary to just keep going with it and to stay with it, that you don't really, things don't always really click right away? It's something that you have to like kind of dedicate yourself to? Because sometimes I've noticed, and I'm not exactly proud of this, but sometimes I've gotten discouraged when I try something and I, you know, I do it the first or the second or the third or the fourth time and I don't get anywhere with it, and I start to feel like almost like it's not going to happen.
All right, let me address that because that's real. Okay. Dr. Joe, you hear him say, don't get up until you feel the change. If I had done that, I would have starved to death in the chair because I didn't feel change for months. I read the book and I heard the promise in the book. And the promise was, you do the work, you get the promise. And so I said, you're on. And I put my maleness on, you know, the tough guy thing. It says, I ain't going to let go of this. And I didn't. And it took months for the change to start happening in me. So how much do you want it? Are you going to want it where you try 2 or 3 times and quit? Well, don't even bother, because your mind and your body are habit-forming machines. And if you're not going to stick with it enough to overcome the habits of your mind and your body, then you're lost before you start. I warn you now, it's not a simple thing to achieve what I achieved. I did it through massive amounts of repetitions and determination and daily choosing. From what I understand of this work, your mind and your body have been ruling you. Dr. Joe says 95% of your daily life is automatic programs. So you have to be 9 times louder than your body just to break even. This is not casual. You have to choose your way into freedom. Our society is teaching us to be this 24/7, every hour of every day. Our society is teaching us stress. Our society is teaching us separation. Our society is teaching us materialism. And if you want to get free of that, you're going to have to choose moment by moment. Okay? So it's not easy, and it doesn't come quickly for some people. It didn't for me.
So
Okay.
basically, don't give up. So basically, don't give up. No matter, don't expect. I think for some people, it's going to take less. For some people, it's going to take more. It may be because of the particular issues they have. It may be for some whatever reason. But I don't think in general, as a general rule, anything ever really comes immediately. I think that when it comes to real deep inner work, you can't expect it for it to click, you know, shortly
Yeah.
after. You have to really dedicate it.
Every now and then you'll find somebody who just seems to walk through the door, and you just go, how you do that? I don't know, you just do what he says. It's like, but yeah.
Exactly. That's
Every now and
basically
then
what I
you'll
was.
find somebody like that, and it will just, all the rules kind of go out the window, and you go, ah. But anyway, for me, it takes a lot of work.
That's basically what I was responding to Bob Z Colorado in the comment. Basically, that some people it does kind of take quickly, and then who knows how they do it.
Yeah.
But anyway, the last thing is the thing that you guys were talking about in the book was you worded it more or less. You have to change your thinking around the thing. This is not really so much a question. This is more so maybe a suggestion for a particular topic, maybe for a different group, or maybe something you guys can go into this one. But for some people, myself included, sometimes it's not always easy to find a higher way to look at a particular specific thing that's going on that's negative. That's something that I would like to go into more depth with, hopefully find people that want to go more in depth into that just alone, like ways we can take a particular negative, a quote unquote negative thing, and find higher ways and different ways of looking at it. Because that's something that me personally, I've struggled a little bit with that sometimes. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it feels near impossible.
Well, let me give you my reality check. For some people, you do live in an adversarial life. For some people, this really is a daily survival struggle. For some people, you really do live in a threat environment. That's your world. I'm sorry. So what do you do? When you sit in your chair to meditate, can you let go of it for just a little while? Can you take off the armor? Can you look around and say, my house is safe right now? My door is closed. My house is quiet. Can you let go of it for even a little while so your body can heal? That's the immediate goal. When your body starts healing, your energy changes. When your energy changes, your body starts healing, and your energy will start attracting a new environment. First, learn how to sit in the chair and let go and take off your struggle for just a little while. I'm not being unreal. I know some people live in some harsh environments. But can you take it off for a little while when you sit in your chair to meditate? That's the goal of the work. Because when you learn to do that, you'll be able to bring that new energy with you through your day, and you just might attract a new life to you.
Do you think there's a connection between meditation and discovering a higher way of looking at something?
Absolutely, because meditation is the practice. Meditation is the work of letting go of your analytical mind. Dr. Joe's meditation is not where you see people go, oh, where you zero out. Dr. Joe's is work with intent, with purpose to heal the body. And I'm at the point where I have days where I sit down and go, oh, but that first couple of years, I sat down to do work every single day. And that work was to save my physical life because I had multiple cancers that had put my name on it. And I wasn't going to give in. So first you learn how to get a hold of your energy and raise your inner energy so your genetics, just like we read in that page on 100, will stop producing sickness and turn and produce health.
And meditation is basically just letting go of meditation is basically, I've never done it like as an expert level. I've done meditation a little bit throughout my life. From what I've experienced, from what I've seen others teach me that were meditation instructors, it's basically sitting and let going of thinking. That's basically what it's always felt like to me.
That is
it's like getting
that is like first step. If that's all you've done, then you haven't done Dr. Joe's meditation. That's
No, I haven't.
Yeah, because when Dr. Joe's meditation begins, he goes through a part of the early part of meditation he calls the induction. That's where you turn your energy inward and you start putting your awareness, attentive awareness on your energy centers, and you start in charging them, because where attention goes, energy flows, charging them and bringing that energy up. And you practice this again and again and again until it's familiar with you. When you do that, you've turned off your attention to your sensual environment. So your body energy starts coming in. Now that your body energy is coming in and getting into your mind, now your intention, intention, turns on, and you send out the signal to the universe, I need health, and this is what I'm dealing with, or whatever your intention is. What the mind sends out in intention, the heart's energy draws to you. And that's the part I never learned with all the study I did with everything else, is that I never learned the wonder of the magnetic field of the heart. Because you get the signal out and you move into your heart center and become heart coherent, and you start drawing the universal energies to you. And your life starts changing. This life starts changing. And when your personality change, your personal reality will change. Little steps, you will start making little turns, but the universe will be drawn to you as you are drawn to your future self. It's quantum physics. It's proven. It's science. It's amazing. But it's steps.
How does one imagine these centers? That's the thing. I've listened to like guided. I know that it goes beyond just letting go of thoughts, but guiding towards, like, for example, these energy centers. For me, I'm just going to be totally upfront. I was never really quite sure how to imagine these centers. Like, I never really knew exactly how to imagine them, like how to get in touch with that part of the process.
I think I got this. Can you see my camera?
I can't see the words on it.
Right, but this image is what I got from becoming supernatural. And the energy centers are not chakras in the sense that they're spiritual things about us. These energy centers are actual neural complexes around certain parts of our body. And those neural complexes are like mini brains, and they actually have intelligence to them. Specialized intelligence, but they have intelligence and they have memory. the trauma from molestation, the sexual confusion, sexual anxiety, addiction, deprivation. That's the first one. Victimization, lack, unworthiness, pain, shame, guilt. That's the second one. Drug aggrandizement, ego, impatient, control, contemplation. Those are symptoms of the three base energy centers. And this is what healing frees you from. And this is what we'll be studying as we go through this whole year. So to get to the level of detail you're asking, we're kind of early. We're only in the first few chapters of this book, and there's 3 books to go through.
Okay,
But
thank you.
But it's all very important questions. These are all very real questions. You didn't ask a wrong question. It's just a little early to go into the discussion of the whole thing.
Okay. So be patient and hang on.
Hang on and do the morning meditations.
Okay, thank you.
And know that I am a realist. I know what the world is like, and I know how we got to who we are. And we're here to learn. Let me say that better. We're here to unlearn who we've been taught we are. We are energy beings. We are eternal energy beings. We are eternal, luminous, electrical, light-giving energy beings. We really are. We are children of the divine universe. We are heirs to the throne and receivers to the infinite potential. We really are all those things. And you look at yourself in the mirror and go, yeah, right. And I go, we have been taught this survival. We have been taught this scarcity. We have been taught separation. I'm here to help you relearn and unlearn. Okay?
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay, we're getting kind of long on this discussion time. Feroza?
Hi, Ray. I'll make it quick. I have one just before me what was said about the time perspective. So I'm reading I was listening to Joe Dispenza's YouTube, and it's like this guy did not even believe in the work, and he was on a wheelchair, and in 3 days he started to walk again.
It
And
has nothing to do with belief. It has to do with doing the work.
And what I realized happened, Ray, is that, for example, you said it took 2 years for you to cure the cancer.
My first year, my first year cured the first cancer. My second year cured colon cancer.
And I think my mind is getting caught up in time, because when I was watching these videos and the guy's like, oh, he just came and there he's walking out of the wheelchair, the blind person can see. And
Yes.
my problems are not even those severe, and these people are doing it. Why the hell I'm not getting I'm sorry, I'm not
Go right ahead. I totally understand that expression.
yes.
Let me give you a simple answer. How long does it take you to learn to let go of your past? Some people are so willing to just give it up that they can give it up and move on to a new life. I couldn't. I was fighting my wars from the time I was a boy to the time I was an old man. For me to give up the fight, the fight was my whole identity. That's who I said I was. I had to learn a new me. That was not a small thing for me to achieve. And I think that's the key for a lot of people. They are so embedded with I am that person, that to say that person goes away and I am going to allow a new person, a new identity to evolve in me. My goodness, that's no small thing.
So basically, it's just their own ability to let. So even though their old pattern was so embedded in them that they stopped walking and stuff, they were able to let that go.
That's my observation. I'm not in their head, and so I can't say definitively, but that was my observation, yes.
Yeah, because I think what I was doing is using the time as an excuse to not to be like, oh, it worked for them in 3 days, it's not working for me. Very bad. Like, uh, but thank you, Ray.
Yeah. I wanted it fiercely. I wanted it. I had a death sentence. Every time I'd show up to the hospital, they said, yeah, okay, well, you beat it this year, but next year, when it comes back strong, it'll kill you. Was he just teasing me? No, because everybody else that was in the group of patients that I started with, they're all dead. They were all dead within 5 years. They had me come to the hospital and give a talk one time to figure out why I survived. They weren't just teasing me to tell me that, they're expecting this to kill me. It killed everybody else. Advanced, fully metastatic malignant melanoma kills, and it has a very high kill rate. And they wanted to know what I did differently. I wasn't even sure how to explain it to them. So, yeah, go ahead. I saw you start to talk, Beatrice.
No, we have Julie. She has been waiting so patiently. So I think
Okay.
Thank you, Ray, and thank you, Beatrice.
I just wanted to say, like, I just nodded whenever Ray says things because it just make total sense. And I wanted to just few points. And Beatrice, you talk about the three, right? Body, environment, and time. So a lot of time when we listen to Dr. Joe, he will point it out: no body, nowhere, and no time. And that's exactly just try to conquer those big three in the survival mode. And then for I think a lady says about how the things work. Dr. Joe Dispenza has a website, and one of the session you can look for is a proof session where people give you their transformation stories, how they get from the point A to point B. So I think that will be something that very helpful for people who has not done the work, but they wanted to, because they have a different, like, how does a person get 50,000 in their bank account just by doing the work?
Yes.
And then how does people doing different things? And then I just wanted to mention, like, I don't have any cancer. I don't have depression. I'm generally very healthy and happy person. But Dr. Joe's work also still give me the life change for me. And because that he is focused on changing the energy, and then we can all use that change of energy to change our life. So I just
Yes.
want to add that.
Thank you. That was good.
thank you.
Okay, Lisa, we got to get back to our book, but I'll listen to you. Lisa, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to chase you away. I saw your hand come up.
Hi. Really quickly, two things. First of all, this conversation was awesome. Thank you for allowing it to go as far as it's done. How did you personally, Ray, get turned on to him with all that anger and all the pushback? Like, who turned you on to it, and why did you go forward with it?
Okay, that's fair. For those who would like to see my whole story, on my YouTube channel, Ray's Quest, Body and Mind. That's if you go to YouTube and do a search under Ray's Quest, Body and Mind, you'll see all my videos. One of the videos is The Work and the Promise, and that's a 2 hours of me telling my testimony. But to answer your short question, I was I was diagnosed with full phase 4 melanoma in September 2009. And I had already, by the time 2018, that's 9 years later, I had gone through 8 surgeries, as well as many nitric freeze burns where they took the basal and squamous burns off. I'd come home twice a year. I had every 6 months, and I'd come home looking like I'd walked through a bee's nest. And just, they burned me in so many places, burning up. I was just, anyway. So I had tried going to church thinking faith would do it. And I don't fit in church. I tried other esoteric schools. I mentioned the Kabbalah, a very good schooling. I still, in fact, the tree behind me is my reminder of many lessons I learned in the Kabbalah. I loved it. I learned about Rosicrucians. I learned about the numerous other, I even visited a Wiccan group one time. Some of the best, lovingest, huggable people you ever meet in your life. And I just couldn't go where they went. It was like, okay, you guys are too off for me. But none of those trainings I did over the years I was doing that changed my heart. I would go home, and at the end of the day, I'd be the same person. I'd learned some cool things, but nothing changed. It was in March of 2018 when I was scrolling through Gaia on television, and I came across that weird movie, What the Bleep Do We Know? How many people seen that movie? Strange movie. My wife and I watched it, and she just said, she got up and left the room. That was too weird for her. And I sat and played it a second time. And I wrote down all the names of the speakers. And I went through Bruce Lipton, Craig Braden, that lady from Washington State, from the ARE or AR, or whatever it is, and the other speakers. And they were good speakers, but they didn't touch me. And then there's this one last guy. Oh no, not a chiropractor. That was my idea. Not a chiropractor. Yeah, what's a chiropractor going to tell me about how to heal my cancer and how to get over this? But so I started looking on the YouTube under his name, and I started seeing his videos, and I was going, oh man, this guy's saying stuff. So I bought this book in March of 2018. And I was just about chapter 6, our next chapter, which talks about the heart, when I realized I had found my teacher. And it's like, oh, this is good. This is so good. But the analytical part of my mind says, oh, it's just another copycat preacher. So I found his first book. If you're a little bit heady like I am, and you like technical research, there's a book called, okay, it's not at my desk. There's a book called Evolve Your Brain by Dr. Joe. That is actually his first book. It is probably going to be one of the most challenging books to read. It's about this big, and there's nothing meditation in it. There's nothing mystical in it. It is this book, this big, that explains his science. It explains everything scientific that he uses in all 3 of his books. Dr. Joe is, when he says science is the modern mysticism, he puts his money where his mouth is, and he sincerely validates everything he does through science. And by the time I was done reading Evolve Your Brain, I was all in. Everything in my analytical, technical head was solved. And now all I had to do is learn to do it. I had received the promise, and I was set to do the work. And I did not let go of it. Even when I sat here for week, and nothing changed, I just knew that if I could force this into me and change the programs that were running in me, I would change. And I knew that my programs were loud. He says, you need to want that future self more than you heard the past. In other words, your past is so loud in your mind, your future self has to be louder, so that when your mind searches, it finds the light of your future and turns its back on the noise of the past. That is a scientific fact on how the brain chooses between 2 things. What part of your brain is signaling you the most? And that will be what you choose. How much do you want your future self? Do you want it enough to overcome the noise of your past? If not, your past will win. You've got to want it. You've been doing these harmful separation, unworthiness programs all your life. You're going to have to want to be free to get free. This is real here. I'm not telling you to go sit and go home. I'm telling you, this is work. You do the work, you get the promise.
Thank you. I feel like it was like the universe was, like you said, you just turned the TV on or YouTube, whatever, and there it was, and you got magnetized to it, and you got healed to share all this with us. So thank you.
Every year I pay for a meetup group. That costs me money. Every year I pay for this professional Zoom account. It costs me money. And every year, I plan my whole year calendar around giving my time in this work. Because how can I balance the scale when it's given me not only my health, but a heart of joy and love? I don't have a price for it. So I've dedicated my life to help people get into this change of culture. It's hard to change culture. And that's what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to become somebody else. Nothing short of that. And that's not my words. That's what Dr. Joe says. You got to do it and become somebody else, because that old self is an illusion to the social environment that you raised in. Well, I got preachy on that. Okay, Patrice, I got way over your time on that.
No, that was great discussion. So we kind of go a little bit fast here.
That's definitely gonna be on the recording. You guys got a good recording to listen to this week. Okay.
So one of the things that somebody mentioned in the chat was that I have an accent that it might be difficult to understand. So I will try to speak slowly, but I apologize for that, right? There's nothing I can change, right? So we're on page 102, and one of the things that Ray mentioned is that we're spiritual beings, right? But however, when we're in survival, we feel very strongly as somebody, right? You can even feel your body even more when you're a survivor than when you are creative. And that is because all the emotions, right? The low frequency emotions, lust, competition, guilt, shame, fear, right? They are low in frequency, right? So they're more material. So when we're in survival, we feel very much solid, even though we are we're made of energy, right? So, and he says, as our emotions become more elevated, we will naturally ascend to a higher level of consciousness, closer to source, and feel more connected to universal intelligence. So the idea is really to transmute, right? We're going to transmute those low frequency emotions, right, to high frequency emotions such as love, gratitude, right, compassion. The other topic that we have discussed is the addiction to being somebody, right? When we're in survival, we talk about those chemicals, right? When we're very stressed, right, or we have a very low frequency emotion, our body starts generating certain chemicals and we become addicted to that. So we're all going to be looking for situations that really bring us, a fix to that addiction, right? That's why sometimes we keep on relationships that are not good for us, right? We keep repeating, those very stressful situations. Also because when we're in stress, that sometimes has to do with an addiction, right? That we have, but also with our identity, right? We identify with that person that is suffering, right? We identify with that person that is angry. And because it's addicted, it's very hard to break that cycle. If we go to page 105, the other thing that it mentioned is when we are under stress, we become more selfish, right? Because we want to make sure that we're safe. So our attention really, our focus really narrows, right? We become very conscious of our focus, and we become very selfish because we want to make sure that we're safe, right? It's nothing mean. It's just that, our safety is, at the top of our needs. And so what he says is when the ego is under constant stress, right, it's got a me first priority. And then he says, in fact, the more we define reality through our senses, the more this reality becomes our law. And the material reality as law is very opposite to the quantum law, right? Wherever we place our awareness is our reality. Consequently, if our attention is focused on the body and our physical realm, And if we become locked into a particular line of linear time, then it becomes our reality. So it has been asked today, right? How do we free ourselves from this? To forget about the people we know, the problems we have, the things we owe, and the places we go, to lose track of time, to go beyond the body and its need to fit its habituations, to give up the high from the emotionally familiar experiences that reaffirm our identity, to detach from trying to predict a future condition or review a past memory, to lay down the selfish ego that is only concerned with our needs, to think or dream greater than how we feel, to create the unknown. This is the beginning of freedom, right? From our present lives. So here's when we start to give us a clue, right? That in order for us to heal, in order for us to change, we need to forget who we are, our time, our environment, and ourselves. Any comments, Ray?
Yeah, I'd like to add a little something to this. I've been studying something on the side called flow, Flow. Flow is the word that's used for sports people and some artists and like dancers or even musicians. It's when you know what you're doing so well that you let go of your consciousness and your body just continues to perform. Back when I was a young man, I got into jogging a little bit. I was never a long distance runner, but I could run a few miles. And I realized once I got very comfortable at it, I would do what I used to call, because I didn't know the word flow at the time, I would ride the run. And my mind would just kind of disassociate from my body, and I'd just be consciously looking around as my body is jogging down this trail. And I used to think that was the coolest experience I had ever had physically in anything. I just thought that was so cool because I hadn't studied the flow phenomena. As I talked to other people, well, that's what dancers do. They practice their dance until it's so embedded in them that they can let go of the body and let the music in them, and their body flows to the music. That's what musicians do. I have a friend of mine, he's 90 years old, and he sits at the piano, and music just flows out of his fingers. And he can look around like this, and it's just this melodic, classical sounding music that just makes you stop and listen, flows out of him. And he's 90 years old. He's been doing it since he was since he was a teenager. And just that's flow. Well, that's the kind of thing that was just described in that paragraph. To lose track of time, to lose track of your daily life. But what does it take to get there? Well, it takes the challenge, it takes practice, it takes memorizing the work in you, and it takes letting go of your sensory analytical mind. But you can't let go until you've practiced it and learned it deeply autonomically. So the first thing is practice. Do the work, do the work, do the work until it is routine in you. Then, when you're in that mode, you can start letting go, move into that place of nobody, no place, no time. And the energy will just do its intent, and the intent will flow through you. I just thought I'd point out that what we're learning here in meditation is the same thing that athletes learn in their skill set. I thought that was cool.
I have a
There are
question.
couple of questions.
Sure.
We have Julie. Go ahead, Julie.
No, Ray made me think about something I have learned. It's called Shuhei. It's a Japanese concept. And then it's a concept originating in martial art and just 3 stages of learning and mastery. So it's probably exactly the same thing what you said. It just start with the fundamental, and then diverting, innovating, and transcend to the state. So it's kind of cool. You remind me of that.
It's exactly the same. It's the same thing. There's many ways to divide that gray area between each state, but that is what I'm talking about. And that is what we learned by doing the same meditation. Like I said, I did those blessings of the energy centers for a year, hundreds of times. And it got to the point where I didn't even know what I was doing. I would just go into it and I would let go and let the Dr. Joe's voice lead my program in me. And I just kind of quit paying attention because I've heard it 100 times. But that was the key, and I didn't even know it. And in that letting go, I found my place before the divine and learned about surrender and worthiness.
So shall I continue?
Yeah, that sounds like.
So the last point is just one thing that we have not mentioned is not in the book, but since everybody asked a lot of questions, we haven't talked and follow with the book, but it's about resistance, right? When you do this work, always, when you have doubts, sometimes it's because we resist, right? We all have resistance. So when you have doubt, it's better to just do it, right? And not think about it, should I do it? How long it's gonna take me? Because that's only resistance that we all have really on trying to change. So on page 110, he says, thus, here is the grand hint. To change any aspect of your life, body, environment, or time, you must transcend it and detach from your present familiar reality. You must leave behind the big three, right? That were time, environment, and body, right? You must leave behind the big three in order to control the big three. So that's what it means, right? You need to transmute those low frequency emotion into high frequency emotions. And the only way to do that is to leave behind the body, the environment, and time. And fortunately, I think this is amazing, right? We have a part of our brain that is really very good at helping to do that. That is the frontal lobe, right? When we're in creation, we're activating the brain's creative center, the frontal lobe, right? It's the part of the forebrain and comprising the prefrontal cortex. So this is really the newest part in creation. For the sake of our understanding, the frontal lobe performs three essential functions, and we're going to talk about them. One is metacognition, the other one is creating a new mind, and the last one is making thought more real than anything else. So how do we start creating, right? What he says is that if you want to create a new self, you first have to stop being the old self, right? That's where we start. And for that, it really takes to go inward as well as to understand your own beliefs, right? What's in your unconscious. So this seems very simple, but it's not. You are what you are. You are where you are, and you are who you are because of what you believe about yourself. Your beliefs are thoughts you keep constantly, consciously or unconsciously, accepting as law in your life. Whether you are aware of them or not, they still affect your reality, right? And that's difficult, right? To become self-aware. What I realize is the more I meditate, the more I have access to my subconscious, right? So I think it's really reinforcing, right? The more you meditate, the more access to your subconscious you have. And I would also recommend that when you do this to have a notebook, because for some reason, it's very easy for us to find a belief and then forget about it, right? It's like our self doesn't want to change. So that's one tip that I can give. It says, to become familiar with your unconscious state of mind and body takes an act of will intention and heightened awareness, right? What he's saying here is not easy. You have to be very intentional and it has to be constant, right? You have to commit yourself to every day, at every time of the day, to observe yourself and others. The purpose of becoming self-aware is that you no longer allow any thought, action, or emotion you don't want to experience pass by your awareness, right? So when you see that you're having a thought that you don't want, that's going to create a feeling that you don't want, you have to stop it, right? And in some of his meditations, he uses the word change, right? We can go into that. But I think the important thing here is that we need to become very self-aware. So as you develop the skill of becoming familiar with all the aspects of yourself, you will be ultimately become more conscious. Your goal here is to unlearn who you used to be so you can free up energy to create a new life, a new personality. You cannot create a new personal reality as the same personality. You have to become someone else, and metacognition is the first step. Let's see if anybody has any comments or questions.
Yeah, I was just saying that last statement is crazy. Think of it. Try to picture me as an old Army guy reading this paragraph. To change, I have to be somebody else. It's like, what? How do I be somebody else? This is who I am. I can't just take off this cloak and be somebody else. Well, that's exactly what I had to learn to do, is to let go of this cloak that I called me. And when it was done that morning, I got up off the floor and knew I was somebody else. I was not who I had defined myself all my life. It was that profound that from that morning, I had a different definition of who I am. Just so amazing. Yeah. So I put on a new life. I changed my personality that morning. And the result was the phase 4 melanoma ended in me. Crazy. But I can't exaggerate that. That is epigenetics. That is the magic word. When I was healed, I went around for a month or so saying I had a miracle. I had a miracle. It wasn't until I reread this a couple of times and I started focusing on the word epigenetics. I had an energy change that said I was different and I became different. That's what happened to me. I had an energy change. I let go of my past and became a new person. And so I became a new personality that did not have cancer. And it ended that abruptly. It really, really did. Crazy story. My medical records. Somebody once asked me for my medical records, and I got the VA to send it to me. It's a 3-inch stack of paper. It's just, you really want to go through all these, this. So, yeah. Once again, I'm stressing epigenetics. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Ray, a lot of things I heard you earlier speak about your background, Christianity, at one point, and I sound like you sound like me. I've done a lot of things, but I've noticed in what's his name, in Joe's work is a lot of what he says is like some of what the Bible says. I mean, it's a whole lot like put it on a new mind. Uh, um, Renew your mind and different things I found that the Bible links to, and I like you, I had to keep searching, and of course Joe was where I am because I needed more. I did a lot of stuff, but I guess what I'm saying is a lot of what I've read in the Bible is a lot of seem like what Joe is doing is this. He's showing the scientific part of what the Bible is saying. You understand what I'm saying?
Can you imagine being so clean in your mind that you could read the New Testament with no reference to religion and you would take it fresh and just read and get what it says?
Wow.
Wouldn't that be wonderful?
I would love
Not,
it.
yeah, it's not
That's
the
kind of like what
scripture.
Neville That's kind of like what Neville
Neville
Goddard
Goddard,
talked about.
yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
he
I
talked a
love
lot
Neville
about that.
Goddard.
Neville, yes.
If anybody in this group wants something from Neville Goddard, ask me. I've
Oh,
got
yeah.
a library
Oh,
of
my
ebooks
God.
of just about everything that Neville Goddard put out. I
Oh,
went nuts. In fact, it was Neville Goddard that was my bridge to finally
Okay.
deprogram me from religion.
The quick
I used to
question.
have such animosity. But
Yeah.
I learned Neville Goddard and I got free of my animosity and my religion, and I just began to learn fresh.
So you were with Neville Goddard first, and then you came to Joe, or was simultaneously?
Yes.
Goddard?
No,
Okay.
I was Neville Goddard first
Okay.
because I had this turmoil of religion. I mean,
Me
I
too.
was, all my elementary school was in a Christian school.
Mm-hmm.
I got it every day of the week until I was like 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
No, I was 14 years old. Yeah, 8th grade. Yeah, 14 years old. I got it every day of the week. I was deeply programmed. And it carried with me. I was just crazy how deeply that program was in. And so I used Neville Goddard to free me from my struggle with religion.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was clean and I could go listen to somebody else without going, ah.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Yeah. So if anybody wants something from Neville Goddard, contact me on my WhatsApp. And they're ebooks, they're public domain, so I'm not violating any copyright, and I can just post it and give you as much as you can have.
I have a quick question. I have a quick question. I've been kind of just waiting here. Just curious. Just want to jump in here.
Okay.
So, so a question about the metacognition, create new mind, make thought real. Are we going to go into that a little bit further
Yes,
down the
that's
line?
the next step. Metacognition is just understanding who you are at the moment, right? To observe yourself. And then there are 2 more steps to get to where you want to go.
Okay, and one last question: the body, environment, and time thing, kind of going beyond it. Meditations, that the meditations are connected to that process, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Because to get to that, no body, no place, no time, you have to develop the skill of awareness. Because as you go into awareness, your consciousness is busy, so your sensual analytical mind shuts down. So as long as you're in the central analytical mind, you're not in awareness. You can't do them both. So you go into awareness, and as you become totally involved in being aware, this analytical mind gets quiet.
Is that something that's something we can strengthen through dedication to the meditations and staying consistent with it?
That would be my suggestion. And it just takes repetitions. It's like learning how to get into flow. You got to master it until it's innately in you so that you can let go and let your body's autonomic nervous system go.
I've been a deeply analytical person a huge chunk of my life, and I definitely feel like I need this. Thank you.
I can so relate to that, Anna. That's why for someone like you, maybe you would like that book, Evolve Your Brain. Because it will solve that cynicism that, oh, it's just another mystic teacher. It will take care of that. I mean, it's like I read that. It was one of the most challenging books. I'm a book reader. In this room, you see me. I've got books here and there, and my next room, and everywhere I got books. I'm a book reader. Plus, I've got Kindle, and I read books in Kindle. Okay. Well, anyway, I'm a reader.
Does the Evolve Your Mind book basically goes into all the science of basically how this stuff is actually real from a scientific perspective?
Yes.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. It answered my cynicism fully.
I feel that.
Yeah, it answered it. I mean, just when I was done with that book, I was all in.
Thank you so much, Ray.
You're welcome.
We have Patricia. She has been patiently waiting.
Hello, Pat.
Okay, I just wanted to say that I know we're talking about metacognition being something you do in meditation, or meditation can advance that, but I just want to say that I think metacognition can be done by the analytical mind just as a step or just as a partial step, because I know when I read this and started to think about pay attention to unconscious or even the conscious state of mind. I'm trying to give an example. A lot of times when I'd make a mistake, I actually said to myself, well, that was stupid, Patricia. And I'd use my name as if I'd talk back to myself, like somebody, a third person was there talking to me. And I became aware that I was self-feeding myself negative words. And that was kind of a first step into stopping that. And I still do it sometimes. And I'll say, nope, what I meant to say was, and I talk to myself again and say, what I meant to say was, you made a mistake, but you could do it this way next time. Don't worry about it. Or I'll give
Exactly.
myself some feedback that's a positive loop instead of continuing that negative loop. But
That's
that's
correct.
very conscious. I'm doing that very on a level.
Yeah, but we also have some subconscious beliefs, right? We do things based on things that we don't know, right? We say that 95% is subconscious. So that's what he's saying, that, you need to have access somehow to your subconscious to start eliminating beliefs, because we have so many, right? This is not just at one time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just thought I mentioned that. That's the thing too. Listen to your own words.
Yes. Yeah. That metacognition helps you understand that you are telling you your own programs. You are programming you. And it's like, God, Ray, quit telling yourself you're this terrible person. I was amazed at how many times I told myself I was the crazy Army veteran. I did. It was like, God, stop it, Ray. That's metacognition. Yes. Okay. Begin again, Beatrice.
Very good. So, that was the first step, right? The first function of the frontal lobe, right, is metacognition. The second one is creating a new mind, right? So that's also something that you have to take very seriously and set aside time. So what he says is, when we set aside time and private space to think about a new way of being, that is when the frontal lobe engages in creation, right? And what he suggested, we really need to have a clear vision, right, on what what do we want to be? And sometimes that's a little bit difficult, right, because we don't have a clear vision. And one of the things that we said is, okay, maybe we can ask some insightful questions. So to initiate this step of creation, it is always good to move into a state of wonder, contemplation, possibility, reflection, or speculation by asking yourself some important questions, open-ended questions. What would it be like to? What is better way to be? What is this person, living a different reality? Who in history do I admire, right? What would I be like to be him or her? And after you ask those questions, it's very important to listen. Listen to yourself. There's a part of you that knows that is somehow we don't listen because we have so much noise. So after you ask all these questions, you need to sit quietly and listen to yourself, that part of you that really knows. And the last step is making your thoughts more real than anything else. We're beautiful beings because it's amazing that the frontal lobe not also has those abilities, but also it has the ability to lower the volume of your brain, other parts of your brain. And we were in another meeting today about the formula, and we talk about this lowering the volume, right? Sometimes your pain might be so prominent that you cannot think about anything else, right? Or your body moves. But the frontal lobe has the ability to lower the volume. And it says, with very little neural activity, we could say that there is no mind to process sensory input, right? To remember, no mind to activate movement within the environment, and no mind to associate activities with time. Then we have no body, we have become nothing. we're in no time, right? So this is really important, that the frontal lobe can be the creator by lowering the volume, quiet down the brain, so we can make our own thoughts, right, even more real than reality. And then it says at the end, at the bottom of page 115, if you effectively execute the creative process, this experience produces an emotion, as you know, and you begin to feel like that event is actually happening to you in the present. You are one with the thoughts and feelings associated with your desired reality. You are now in the new state of being. You could say that in that moment, you're now rewriting the subconscious program by reconditioning the body to a new mind. And when you do that, you are signaling new genes, right? So when you change, your health changes, right? Not only your personality, but your health. And this is the whole loop, right? Change how you think, how you feel. So by what Ray said, by epigenetics, right? You can change the genes. So you can transform, disease to health. Comments, Ray, anybody else?
Consistently relaxing, and for me, I've noticed what's been really helping is when I don't, my mind is determined that it wants to have an answer and I don't have the answer in the moment regarding an issue, I just tell myself the answer's on the way. I don't know, that's just what came up for me.
So basically we're closing up, and so
Excuse me, Patrice.
Yeah, sure.
Diane, please. Diane's got her hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Ray. Actually, I want to step back and what was discussed earlier, when the young lady was talking about talking to yourself and correcting yourself. I kind of thought that touched this a little bit, or could move forward further onto mental rehearsal. And the question also within that is, will we go over that as well? Like I'll say something like, why did you do that, Diane? I mean, what are you going to do better? What can you do different? Is that like mental rehearsal?
Two different parts to what you asked.
Okay.
When you get in that place where you're going to the quiet, there's work to be done. And on the days that I sit down and I have an intention, let's say I'm working on a healing, my mind does not get relaxed. It goes into awareness, and I'm very attentive in that awareness as I create the story and the energy of the healing, and I participate in it. It's a moment of work. I am busy. I'm working. There's another time where I'm in meditation, and it's like I'm sitting in a park and my mind is simply on receive mode and listening mode. Times like that, my biggest task is to shut up.
Okay.
Just because I want to chatter with myself. I've ended the years of shame that I used to have. I don't have any of that anymore. Oh man, that's a story to tell someday. But I go into quiet and I want to have this kind of talking to myself. And it's a exercise for me to get quiet and listen. And I imagine myself sitting on a city park bench, tuning into the breeze going through trees, tuning into the rustle of leaves as the squirrel runs across, tuning into a bird call, and focusing, putting my attentive awareness on my environment, in my imagination, in my meditation. What this is in perspective is that I have moved into a complete receivership mode. I am not creating anything. I am not intending anything. I am not planning anything. I am simply opening my heart and my consciousness to receive what the environment of my meditation is drawing to me. That is an amazing skill. It took me a long time. I did not get that the first couple of years. That's how long it took me to even begin to do that. I didn't even know to do that the first couple of years. But I was dealing with my PTSD then, and that was super loud. But now I'm just, my big practice is when I go into meditation and want to be quiet, can I even turn off my own chatter? That's quite a thing to achieve. So there's different things you do in your meditation. Sometimes you work and sometimes you just receive.
Thank you.
Did that answer what you were asking?
Yeah, thank you. I can't wait to hear your story. I watched you on YouTube, but I just want to hear the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, look for Ray's Quest, Body and Mind, and it's called The Work and the Promise is the video. Okay, Patricia, I see your hand up.
Okay, I just want to say, can you, the only thing I can kind of equate this to is when I'm trying to feel gratitude. So if you effectively execute a creative process, the experience produces an emotion, as you know, and you begin to feel like the event is actually happening to you. Sometimes if I'm trying to really strongly focus on gratitude, I bring that moment back so strong that I have an elevated moment, a moment of joy, or when I'm in gratitude. Is that similar to what is being
Very similar. I
given?
think that's very close.
Okay.
You know what gratitude feels like. Do it without having it target. Don't say, I'm grateful because I got this, or I'm grateful because I got that. Just remember what gratitude feels like
Okay,
and be that,
thank you.
you know. Okay, I think you're free now, Patrice.
Okay, so basically, I think we can wrap up. We wanted to highlight in this chapter is the difference between survival and creation, right? And let's make this final point on page 118. To anticipate or analyze when, where, and how the event will occur would only cause you to return to your old identity. You are in such joy that it's impossible to try to figure it out. That's only what human beings do when they are living in limited state of survival. As you linger in this creative state where you are no longer your identity, the nerve cells that once fired together to form that old self are no longer wiring together. That's when the old personality is being biologically dismantled. Those feelings connected to that identity, which condition the body to the same mind, are no longer signaling the same genes in the same way. And the more you overcome your ego, the more the physical evidence of the old personalities change. The old you is gone.
Yeah, let me reflect back on my little story of sitting on a park bench in my meditation. I don't mean I go to the park and sit. I mean, right here in this chair, as you see me here. Sometimes I don't have an intent that I get up to do that morning, and sometimes I just project myself in this place where I sometimes walk, and I just see myself, experience myself sitting in that little park bench, closing my eyes, and I go in that quiet place and I receive the experience of being in that park with grace and with light and with sound of the wind and with the smell of the trees and the cut grass and maybe some leaves rustling. When I am in that, in total receiving mode, I am not Ray. I am a consciousness. I am not an Army veteran. I am just a consciousness. All the things that define me is not in that moment. What's in that moment is simply my consciousness loving the environment that I'm in for that moment. I love the rustle of the leaves, the green trees that smell sweet, the cut grass, the rustle of the squirrels as they run past, the call of the blue jay, the blackbird, the crackles, the other little birds, the tap, tap, tap of a woodpecker maybe. I just love to sit there and tune into the environment. And all my self-identity is gone. It's not even, I don't tell it to go away. It just, I'm in this environment, in my awareness, attentively. So all these things that was just listed, those feelings connected to identity, to my body, to signaling to genes, all that is just faded into the nothingness. The stress is gone because I'm not giving any attention to my worries or my paying the bills or anything. And so that moment of time, my energies can collapse in me and I can have a little bit of time where my body is doing nothing else but healing. That's the importance of that paragraph. To learn to put yourself in an awareness state where who this identity is just fades and you are the identity in that awareness. Hello, D. I see your hand.
Yeah, I love what you just said there. And I heard something recently that helps me, and I suck at meditation. I'm horrible.
Keep at it, buddy.
So I heard something. It was basically you have 5 senses, right? To the thought of you being in the park, kind of taking, escaping and getting your mind free, but leveraging your 5 senses and what the person was telling us in the group was like to kind of calm your mind out, clear your mind out. What are 5 things you can see? 4 things I'm gonna have this backwards, but you'll figure it out. 5 things you can see currently, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can that you I can't remember the other. It's basically your 5 senses, right? But it starts with and it helps you calm your mind, right? 5 things you can hear, 4 things you can see, 3 things you can feel, 2 things you can taste, and 1 thing whatever the last sense is, right? But it helps you kind of, at least for me, I was like, oh my gosh, it resonated with me so much because it helped me kind of like clear my mind out, right? So I can get in that theta state or whatever it is where I can start meditation, right?
I
Because a lot of times I sit there and
think that's right on track.
Right on.
Yeah. Yeah, because the whole goal is to move your consciousness into awareness, which is not pointed. Think of the lesson of quantum physics. It's either a point or a wave, a particle or a wave. Your analytical mind, I am looking at that. My attention is on my pencil. Or I can become aware of the room that the pencil is in. One is volume and the other is particular. I can sit here and remember the bench and the park, and I am aware of space, of volume, and the sounds. One of the things I learned to help me learn how to do that is I discovered that listening is spatial. Hearing is a different part of your brain, literally. When you look at something, you look at that. When you taste something, you taste this. When you touch something, you touch that. Everything, all your other senses are particulars, but hearing is spatial. That's why when you go to a friend's house and he's a real stereophobic kind of guy and he's got speakers all the way around his room. I've got a friend of mine that he was showing me his new system. He spent a bunch of money on it. And I just kind of sat down in his chair and says, no, Ray, you got to come over here and sit right here. He had one chair, one seat in the middle of his couch that everything he had this sound sensor and he had tuned his entire speaker balance system to optimize in this seat. And so we watched this big action movie and I got to sit in that seat. And it was really weird because I kept wanting to look over my shoulder to see what was happening behind me. Well, anyway, so hearing is very spatial. So I used to practice listening to move into awareness so that I could find the difference between attention and awareness. Yeah, that's part of what I did on my journey. Okay.
Okay.
You all done, Beatrice?
Yes, we're all done.
Okay. Any last comments before I end the recording?
Just appreciate everybody. Thank you for everything you do.
I want to
Really,
thank, I want to
really
thank
makes a big
everybody.
difference in our life. It makes a big
Oh.
difference in all of our lives.
Yeah. The big thing, like I said, you could read the book or get the audio. What makes this an interesting thing to do Sunday nights is the conversation. I greatly thank you for trusting me with your feelings and your questions, because you won't find anybody more sincere than I am. I'm maybe might know more than I am, but I am as sincere as I know how to be.
Right. I
So
just thank you. I'm sorry.
I'm just rattling. Go ahead.
No, I just want to thank you so much for sharing your story. It is and being so transparent and your emotions. I mean, I just want to cry like right along with you, for this joy, not tears of sadness, but just rejoicing with you.
Yes.
So
Thank you.
I'm so grateful that I got a chance to meet you and be a part of this group here.
Thank you. Yeah.
Never
Yeah.
be
Well,
afraid to speak up and never be afraid to ask a question, people in the group. Even if you feel like it's a stupid question or a beginner's question, never be afraid to ask a question.
you'll be surprised at how many other people are feeling the same thing. And a group here, we've got 60 people plus online now. I don't care what question you have. I bet there's at least a half a dozen people who have the same question, just didn't speak up.
Hey, Ray.
Yes.
I'm sorry, this is Connie, and I'm just looking for the thing to raise my hand, and I'm not finding it. Tonight, but that's okay. Do you mind? Could I say something?
Go right ahead.
I didn't
You
mean.
find it on the button. Are you on the phone or on a
No, I
computer?
usually can find it, but I think because I was trying to say it before, so it's down there, and I'm just not this
Yeah.
moment. It's
Okay, but go ahead,
not
Connie.
it's not fun being old. They
Hey,
never
I'm
told me about
75.
Yeah, they never told me about this. So okay. This is going to sound so elementary, but I'm fine with it. Okay, so we're going to go into a meditation, and what's important is just to give a quick is getting our breathing, and then following the directions of whichever one we're going to do. And is there any like simple, I mean, just so I'm so used to focusing on my breathing, so that's very easy for me from my previous meditation. So breathe and just follow it, and clear, just try to just not distract. Or what I do is when I breathe, I'm able, even though I am an analytical, I am able now, after years of meditation, different type, I'm able to calm right away and get my head, it can clear. But is there any other little, I don't know, tidbit that it seems like I get in the middle of it and it's like, should I be doing something else? But does that make
Okay,
sense?
yes. The breathing is a critical part, but the second part that's every
Okay.
bit as critical is learning how to move your awareness.
Okay.
Once again, he talks about put your attention on the first center and move your awareness there. Where the attention goes, energy flows. That is a principle of energy work.
Oh.
But so you put your attention there. One of the things that I learned when I went to the conference, I would sit with people and watch them ask me that same question, and I would see them put their chin down, and that would tell me that they're using their analytical mind and looking down, and that was their mistake. The idea is to put your awareness here and your awareness there and your awareness there. It is an important skill to be able to move your awareness from place to place and become involved in that moment and in that space.
I have a question.
Let me give you a moment of why that's so important. Let's say you've got a hurt on your hand. If you just stare at it, you can make that spot get stimulated because your attention is driving your attention to your body and your body will rush blood to it. But what you want to be able to do is take your awareness and put that awareness to that point. And do you want your whole hand? No, you want to get it down to that. You want to shrink your awareness down to maybe a quarter, 16th, 32nd, or a few size of a cell, so that you can put your awareness and consciousness into this place and give it your love and attention and light, so that that little point can receive healing energy. The skill of moving your attention from point A to point B to point C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 centers, is critical. Another thing to the goal, as you master this goal of moving your awareness on you from center to center to center to center, I will tell you now, it's a very small step to moving your awareness to the person sitting across the table from you. Very small step. And so it's an important, and why you would do that? You have a friend come over and says, would you meditate with me and help me heal? Attention doesn't do it. No, I didn't say that right. Boy, I got poked on that one. Putting your attention drives energy there, but it doesn't drive heart. When you can move your awareness through your heart into another person, you are tuning in cosmic energy. That's the skill that we're trying to produce.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ray. Oh my goodness.
I have a question, just a quick question directed to specifically what you said, and I'll try to make it because I know that we're at the end. So when we're directing our energy and our awareness to a specific center, this is the question I think I asked before. I was trying to formulate it in the best way. I don't think I was before, but I'll try again. How do you direct your energy to a particular center and do it in a way in which you know that you're specifically and exactly directing to a specific exact center, and like know that you're doing it right? Because for me, that's been the issue. I want to start doing this work, but I don't really feel like I know how to imagine or how I should be visualizing or how I should be connecting. And this is part of the being very analytical. I think people who tend to be more analytical maybe can relate.
No, that's a fair question. We're in the first book, and this is the book to ask questions like that.
But do you understand what my question is?
Oh, absolutely. How do you know you're in the right place? I will explain it to you. Sitting in the chair right where you are right now, squeeze your butt. I'm serious. Put your mind down there and give those muscles a good squeeze. That's your first energy center. That's the area of your first energy center. Now, as you squeeze it, the top of that area that squeezed, right behind your belly button, squeeze that spot. That is the space of your second energy center. So you squeeze it and you put your awareness in that spot. Now, as you squeeze it, you'll feel that about the top of that space is your stomach under your diaphragm right there, and you squeeze that. That's called the solar plex, and that's your third energy center. See, it's really not hard. The instructions tell you to squeeze it. Squeezing it tells you where it's at. Right in the middle of that squeeze, you have a neural plexus of neurons. You really, really do. It's biological, neurological. It's not imaginary. I used to think energy centers were imaginary fields of force. No, they're actually neurological plexus with a certain specific intelligence and memory. And just follow the instructions and squeeze it, and then put your awareness where you're squeezing, and you work it up.
How do we see it? I guess the question is, do we actually imagine it as a specific color or a specific light? How do we connect it into a way where we're seeing it? Like squeezing something is something that I feel like I could attempt to do. Although sometimes I don't know if I would be able to squeeze it, like for example, like what's called the third eye area. I don't really know how I would really squeeze that. Like these are kind of like the questions that my analytical mind is like asking, like how do I could squeeze it with some areas, but other areas maybe what happens if I can't? And also, do I see a color, or how do I visualize it when I'm connecting to it? Things like that.
All right, I went through that same question. See how common that is? I know that answer because that's what I went through. Thank you for the question. So I went through the squeeze thing all the time. You know, once you get to the heart, you can't really squeeze your throat. You know, it doesn't work. So I, you know, but I would become aware of my throat because I would kind of scrunch my jaws and stuff. But what do you do with your pineal gland? You can't squeeze your brain. But he says, as you bring up the pressure, the cerebral spinal fluid actually squeezes, puts pressure on your pineal gland. Actually does. The pineal gland is really trip. And then from there, you just imagine the top of your head. There's one meditation where he tells you to tap the top of your head with your fingernail. So there's an after effect of your touch. You know, I'm kind of bald, so it's easy for me. So just kind of touch it and take your hand away. You can still feel it for a second. Now you know where to put your awareness. And you drive your awareness in a small space volume to this point, and you're at the top of your head for image number 7. And that's what I did until I started wondering, I need more than just physical. Physical isn't getting me very far. Well, symbols. I learned the lesson of symbols and colors are very symbolic. And I went back to my other schoolings. I learned about a little bit in the Kabbalah. The Kabbalah has energy centers and they have colors for all the energy centers. So I thought, well, I'll study that. And then I went into the Vedic a little bit and they have the energy centers and they have their color schemes. And then I went to the Golden Dawn and they had their energy schemes. And every group I went to had a different energy scheme. So it's just like, okay, there's 2 things being taught. 1, color matters. 2, it doesn't matter except to the person that uses it. In other words, they use the color they like, he uses the color they like, you can make up your own colors. Once I got in my head that I can make up my own color scheme, I was free. It says, okay, I'll make up my own. First of all, I know the colors mean because they carry meaning. What does red mean? What does blue mean? What does violet mean? And so I just created a story. And this is my story. Red. First of all, red was the hardest one because I had to start. Red to me was violence, blood, as in negative bleeding. It was rust. It was the color of Mars and the planet of war. And it's like, okay, throw all that trash out. What does red mean to you now? And I had to think about it. I said, okay, I know what red means. Red is the color of life in my body. As I have red blood flowing through me, I have red life. And I said, fine, my color red means life. And I went, oh, that rings good in me. And then as I thought about red, I went, well, what if I just use the spectrum and go up the spectrum? So I said, oh, this is going to be good. Hang on to this. Red is the color of life in my body. And I would meditate on red and I'd squeeze my first center and I would turn on like a red light and I would imagine myself under a red light. My body would grow in strength and intensity of life force in the color of red. And then I'd squeeze the second one and I'd turn on orange. Orange was easy. I laughed when I thought of this one because when you see someone with an orange jacket on, what do you think? Well, there's security for your environment. What is the second center? That's your environment to keep you secure. So I said, oh, my second center, I got little soldiers wearing yellow jackets and no, orange jackets. And so I would light up a layer of orange lights. My third center, one color up the spectrum, was yellow. This is called the solar plexus. This is the sun plexus. This is the heater for your body itself, your core. And I'd turn on yellow and I'd think of the sun radiating in me, the healing light of the sun, and I would call in that radiant energy into me. And I'd have yellow light. Then my fourth center was green, what follows yellow but green. And I'd see a throne room, circular throne room with 8 doors, gilded in gold, symbolizing love. Green is the color of life itself. Everywhere you go in this planet, it starts with green life. Blue is flowing water of color, and blue is a feminine energy. This gets into a discussion of feminine energy versus male energy. And blue is the color of energy. So the fifth center is blue light. And I would picture a blue light, a gentle, beautiful blue light, and it would have feminine energy in it. First of all, don't get sexist. The male and female energies, we all have them. It's part of the human expression. So
I'm offended. Did you
I guess
just
I
did you
asked for
did,
I guess I
did you
asked for
just
that, didn't I?
did you just gender my color?
I guess I asked for that. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. No,
So
do
blue
you
is a
think it's
feminine.
do you think it's okay though if I was able to actually just connect to those glowing colors with each one and then kind of
Absolutely. This is what I'm saying. I did.
and then get into the feeling state of what they represent and the color, as because I can do something like that. I just don't feel like I could squeeze for every single one. Like
No,
I'm just
saying that's what I did. That's the purpose of these colors, is that I had meanings to it, and I'd flow this grace through me, and I'd be able to express myself with love in my voice and my actions. You wouldn't know me, but 5 years ago, I'd find very difficult to talk to a group of people. I was just so shut down.
But my question for you, Ray, if that's the only way that I could get started with connecting to the energy centers, is just connecting with the colors and the feeling state that they evoke, is that okay alone?
Oh, absolutely. I don't care how you do it. There's people who stand on their head to meditate. Just people say you shouldn't sit in a chair with your ankles crossed. There's people sitting on cushion with their legs crossed like a pretzel. Why is it if I sit on a chair with my ankles crossed, it matters? Give me a break. I don't care. What matters is what's going on in your consciousness.
Okay.
Okay. So the sixth is my throat area. The pineal gland, that little crystal radio we got in our head, is purple. No, is violet. The seventh center is violet with a red purple. The eighth is blue. I mean white. Why is the eighth white? Well, because as that white light enters your body, it breaks like a spectrum of light, and all these different frequencies go down the band of a rainbow from the top to the bottom, from violet, ultraviolet, to red in our base body.
I'm
So
familiar
that's
with
my
the crown. I'm familiar with the crown. That's this like I think the seventh. But what's the eighth? Because I've heard
eighth
it.
is your super consciousness.
Ah, okay.
Dr. Joe, that's where you enter the kingdom. That's the part of you, that's your home in the eighth center, where once you let go of this world and you go into the nobody, no place, no time, the gate to the eighth just goes open and you walk in.
I thought that was the seventh. I thought that was the crown was like that state. Can you explain it like the seventh and the eighth?
The
So the eighth is
crown, the seventh is the doorway. And you go to the seventh until you can let go. When you let go, the CEO of your mind steps aside, the angels open the gate to the eighth, and you just walk in. I say it like that because the wrestling I did, because I fought with the angels and I fought with my head to try to get into the eighth center, and I couldn't make it let me in. I used to, let me in, that type of craziness. I really did do that. And it wasn't until I learned that when I can get peaceful in my awareness, the seventh just gets to rest, and you just walk into the kingdom. It's not a fight at all once you get it right.
basically seven is like the ultimate surrender, and then basically the eighth is what's on the other side of it, like the ultimate.
Very well said. Yes.
Thank you very much, Ray. It's clicking for me now.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really spot. You got it right.
So seventh is like the ultimate surrender, and then eighth is beyond it, is the ultimate, is like the paradise place, and the seventh is the surrender, but it's not. It's the act of surrender in that place, and then the eighth is what's on the other side.
Yes. When you go into spatial awareness, and just can really be in a receiving, loving mode, your consciousness goes into an autonomic field, and the gate to number 8 just seems to open, and you just walk in. I used to push against it. It's like I had this image of angels with crossed swords. You can't come in. I want in. That's the kind of guy I was. And It wasn't until I really learned the art, the skill of awareness, that when I can't get in, I know it's my fault now, that I'm still struggling with analytical stuff. Because I know that when I get it right, I just walk in.
But you think that seventh is, one could say seventh really is that ultimate surrender?
Oh yeah, that's the last guardian. He is the guy that helps you with your analytical thinking, and he's the guy that when you turn that off, he's the one that moves and watches over all your autonomic stuff. And when he's watching over your autonomic stuff, the gate to 8 opens up. So he's either doing analytical, attention, sensory input stuff, or he lets go and goes into the flow state that we talked about, the autonomic state.
That makes perfect sense. That's really clicking for me. That really helped. Thank you, Ray. I was so confused about how to connect to those energy centers before, because when you were talking about like the squeezing and stuff, I just my brain kept thinking, how do I squeeze to that one? How do I squeeze? But the colors and kind of getting into the feeling state, and then the ultimate surrender, the seventh, and what you said about the eighth, it all clicks and makes perfect sense for me now.
Colors without meaning is nothing.
Say that again?
Colors without meaning is nothing. Each color, you should be able to tell a story with each color, similar to what I was just trying to do. I think of a color and I've got a whole story behind each color. That meaning teaches my body how to respond to that color.
Very, very, yeah. Just the color alone is, and nothing else. No, definitely.
So sometime you should be able to sit down and tell me the meanings of every color, like I did with red. You know, I had to redefine the meaning of red. I didn't like the meaning that was in me. So I had to sit and think and create a new meaning for red. And now it excites me when I turn on red.
No longer is the red the blood. Now it's like a life force energy.
That's it. See? That's what I mean. Every color should have bright meaning to you so that it impacts you. Like white in my 8th center. So what's white? White is the color of the light my Father gives me. White is because white is the spectrum of all colors, right?
Yes.
And that is me touching into the universal potential. It's got to be white because it's got all colors in it.
So basically, every single time you're going through those colors, it doesn't have to be specific for anyone. We connect with that color and the feeling state of it with whatever way we do that.
Very right. Very right. Exactly. I mean, sometimes it's for me. Sometimes I want to receive in my meditation, and I just want to go through and fill me with grace and love. You know, and the color is just, I bless myself, I bless this one, this one, this one. Oh, now there's a next step to this. After I did this for a while, I kept feeling layered. Okay. And I needed to find a story that didn't cancel my message of the colors, but overcame the layered image. So in this layered cake, because it's kind of like a birthday cake with layers, except each layer is a different color. I saw myself as a ball in my red center, and I started to stand up in my energy centers, and this white being started standing up in the middle of this cake. And so I would stand up and I would be one energy being in the midst of this rainbow of colors. And once I started doing that, it feels good just rehearsing it in my mind.
What do you feel like the fourth with the heart center and then the eighth center, when you said that when you saw that white light, you connected with your Father and the love and all of that? For me, my once again, this analytical mind started going like, how is that different from how is this 8th space different from this 4th, this heart center? Because it feels like the heart center, how you mentioned this white light where you're connecting with your with the love that your father gave. For me, I'm not seeing how the difference between the 8th center and the heart, because it feels like a similar thing.
It is, well, sort of. It is, okay, let me start again. Okay, I'm going to give what Dr. Joe gives. The
Okay.
intention is created in the mind by your intent. The mind energy sends out the signal of your intent. And that's like white light. That's like you're in the 8th center and I have a need. Help me, Father. I want healing energy here. I need employment fixed. My heart is aching because of a relationship thing. Whatever your intent is, you're sending the cry out of your higher energy. That is not woo-woo. That is physics. The mind produces an energy that sends out. The heart produces magnetic frequency. It is a vertical, one is a vertical wave, one is a horizontal wave. Literally different wave patterns in physics. And the heart energy is a horizontal wave. It's magnetic and it draws to you what the vertical waves were sending out. One sends out the cry to the universe and the heart energy draws it back. That's physics. This isn't even woo-woo. This isn't even mysticism. This has been shown to be quantum. So when you get to where you can tune into that 8th center and tune in to your intent and let it shine in that white environment and let your heart love it. Remember, listening is receivership. Gratitude is receivership. Joy is receivership. Let your heart have these receiving modes and draw to you the energy that you sent out. You'll be drawing, and so you've got this magnetic loop. You ever seen these pictures of bodies with this magnetic loop around? That's
The
not
torus field?
imagining. Yeah, that is actually the body energy. The mind sends the signal out and the heart draws it back in. That's why mind-heart coherence is an important skill to learn. Because a lot of times in the scattered life that we live in our society, our mind's thinking this one thing and our heart's thinking something else. And we're just bodies incoherent and there's little healing going on. When we learn to practice mind-heart coherence, we get this loop going and our energy flows and our heart goes into rest and our body heals and we draw to ourselves what we are intending out. It's physics. It's crazy that it's actually physics, proven science now.
And the intention is basically just thinking about it?
Well, it's a little bit more than just thinking, but yes.
Okay. Focusing on it.
Yeah. For those who don't know, let me give you something to check into. Heart Math Institute. It's one of the few things that I will ever direct you outside of Dr. Joe. This is a Dr. Joe study group and discussion group. And so I stick to that. You didn't come here to listen me talk to some clairvoyant. I don't care how accurate and beloved they are. You come to talk about Dr. Joe. But this is one of the few exceptions. Heart Math Institute. And you will learn about heart coherence, mind-heart coherence. And it's an interesting skill. It's something I practice on and off.
Thank you, Ray.
And did you say heart math,
Yes.
M-A-T-H?
Heart
Okay.
Math, M-A-T-H, Heart Math Institute.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Joe works a lot with them. A lot.
Can you see my camera? This is a heart rate variable monitor. And it's right here by my desk because I practice using it.
Oh, wow.
I got something else to show you. This, what you see, is the app that goes with it, so that when I practice it, I get biofeedback as I do it. So that you're not just imagining you're doing it, you get biofeedback that says, oh, I'm just imagining. No, I'm stressing out. No, I'm really at peace in my heart.
That is so cool. What's the name of it again?
Heart Math Institute.
No, the tool that you're using.
Okay. It's called.
It changed. It's a harmonic.
Oh,
Couldn't see it. What is it called? The exact device called?
the device is called heart rate variable. It's called HRV, heart rate variable monitor.
Thank you.
You clip it to your ear. It's got a little biofeedback sensor, like a lie detector sensor. You click it to your ear, and it monitors your heart, and it does a Bluetooth link to your phone, and you can monitor. Am I just imagining? Or because a lot of times I find myself imagining. I look at this and it's all says I'm all in stress. It's a real head turner when you first start doing it, and you'll find that you're not even close to an heart coherence.
Heart rate what monitor? What's the part after rate?
Variable.
Okay.
VARI, variable. I bought the cheapest one, and it cost me $150.
Something I'd like to get for my mom. That's something that I would like to get for my parents. Okay.
Well, do they meditate?
They practice, well, they practice stress reduction.
Okay,
They practice
that would be good enough. That would be, as long as they have some kind of practice like that.
They practice stress reductions with breathing and stress reduction, but they don't actually meditate.
Right. So you could go online to Heart Math no, what is that website? Let me see. I'll just drop the link, see if I can find it. I was on it just earlier today. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Meeting group chat.
And you asked about intention. I think intention can be described as the womb of manifestation, right? You set an intention and that.
There it is.
I guess I kind of got got confused as what is that like? What does that look like to set intention? Saying something out loud, focusing on it in your mind.
We will go through that in a lot more detail as we go, because we have stuff that we think about all the time, and oh, I wish you just dropped dead. And I'm sure glad with as many people as said that about me, that it doesn't work that easily.
That's what Dr. Joseph Murphy says about meditation. He's another science of mind guy. That everything is meditation. You can sit there and meditate on your problems all day long, or you can meditate on the solving of them, or just clearing your mind.
The intention, to have a successful intention, is a process that we'll go through as we go through this book, because we think stuff all the time, and in hindsight, I'm glad a lot of them don't come to play, because everybody gets upset and they say things, think things, and so we've been talking too long. Let's get into this meditation. I'm ending the recording.